Now then, morning, Final Monkey here, out in the garden. I've been let out of my den on one of those rare occasions when they let me out, and yeah, this week's video, welcome. This week, apologies for my friends the seagulls up there, but this week's video, I've been inspired by watching Soul Disco's YouTube channel. That's a great channel. It's a woman called Nadine. It's not just soul records, but that's mainly, she's really good stuff. And this week she was hosting a discussion on cleaning vinyl and the pros and cons and ultrasonics and wet washes and drying them and all the rest of it. And I hadn't watched one of those for ages, so I thought I'd share my process, which is pretty much based on watching YouTube videos, reading some stuff online, trial and error over the last 8 or 9 years, I suppose. And anyway, here it goes. It's a sort of 6-stage process basically. I'm going to use, actually, as an example, I'm going to use Soft Machine's third album, because that's the album that I suppose where this process has been most valuable, because there is no doubt that cleaning records and wet washing records actually does improve the sound quality, particularly older records which have built up layers of grunge and grease and dust and all sorts of things. But that record I bought from a car boot sale, and it was just almost unlistenable. And I think I've watched it 3 times now, and it's just getting better and better every time, and I do recognise now what a great album it is. But anyway, I'll crack on with the process. So I think it's a sort of 5-stage process really, and the first stage is about getting the I use lint-free cloths, by the way, on here, but the first stage is about getting the dust off the records, which I usually do on the record player. So any dust that's lying about, obviously use a carbon fibre brush, which I think does something with the static as well. But anyway, that's the first step in the process. The second step is that I apply what's called a surfactant. And I never used to do this, but I read about it, and I'm sure it does make some sort of difference. And I think this is a surfactant is, as far as I understand, a type of chemical which sort of breaks up the surface film of water and allows the sort of liquid to penetrate right into the grooves and into where the sort of grunge is. And the surfactant that I use is there are a few on the market, but I bought this off the internet. It's called Triton X100. I'm not sure what its chemical composition is, but you literally use this in microscopic amounts. This is a 200ml tub, and basically you put 2 droplets of Triton into distilled water, and that's the mix. And what I do is I apply that to the record using a pipette, usually just around the record like that, all around it, and then I very gently work that in with a goat's hair brush. This is one from Monolith Audio. It's not just any old goat's hair, of course. This one is a particularly good one. This is, and I think research has proven that it's the hairs that are taken from the testicles of a billy goat that just that right balance of sort of abrasion yet softness and flexibility to get into those grooves. And of course the most expensive ones are taken from the testicles of billy goats that haven't yet, they're sexually mature but they haven't yet mated, and you know, they're really expensive, because as you can imagine, going down there on a sort of rampant, frustrated billy goat with a pair of scissors, it is a specialist job. So you've got to pay for these things. But anyway, what you do is you just gently work the surfactant in around the record, just like that, so that it's pretty well covered. And then what I do is I tend to leave that just to work in for a minute or two, And then we're going to go on to the sort of wet wash. And for that, when I bought my last record player, I bought a Riga P2. The shop Lintone Audio in Gateshead recommended I use this Disco Anti-Stat, which is a sort of German spin record cleaning machine. And it's been great. I've really loved it. And I've since bought a second bath, which I'll explain why in a minute. But basically what we do is we fill this bath up with my mixture, and what I don't use is the mixture that came with it, because that was the only bad thing about it. The Disco Anti-Stat mixture, whatever it was made of, left a sort of white, fluffy, powdery residue which collected on the stylus, and terrible. So I use my own concoction in here, which is probably 2 parts to 100 of alcohol, 2 to 100 parts of water, 2 parts alcohol, industrial alcohol, 200 parts water. And I find that it helps with the drying, but it also I think possibly helps and doesn't do any harm with the cleaning. And inside this spin cleaner are more goat's hair brushes. There's 2 basically in there, and what you do is you clamp the record to protect the label, and this clamp that comes with it, that clamps together, that protects the label, as you can see, into the spin machine. And basically that's it. It's a lovely manual sort of process, quite relaxing and therapeutic. I don't know whether there's an optimum number of spins. I think this is one of those great processes which you can't overdo it, and the more times you wash them, I think the more you reveal. Somebody might contradict me on that and say that you know, in the long term, if you overdid it, you might damage the sort of the grooves, but I don't know. But anyway, you do that, and then basically I like to leave that for a while to drain off, but I won't do that. I'll take that out for the time being. It's just to show you. Take that off, rinse it off a little bit. The clamp comes off. The label is perfectly dry. And then it's into the drying rack, which comes with the spin machine. And so the reason I bought a second one is that I follow this process. Well, before I put it in the drying rack, I follow it into a second bath, an identical one to this, with just distilled water in to remove, well, give it a second rinse and remove any traces of the sort of alcohol or other residue in there. And then I'll leave it to dry for a good couple of hours on the rack. So pretty much that's my record cleaning process. But of course there are some records that you know, they need more than that, and I do buy them from some funny places. And I just want to show you what I do if they're I'm going to move this out the way a little bit. If there's any records that are particularly grungy and horrible, so I'll just move this. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute while I move this to one side. There we are. So, oh, are you still with me? I'll show you a record that I bought recently, which is in a terrible state, and basically I use a sort of a pre-process. I finish up with that same process I've just talked about, but you can see this actually it's in terrible. I don't know whether you can see in this light, but that's in really bad condition. It's full of, there's mould, there's grunge, there's dust. It smells, it's been in a smoky house. It's I mean, it's a pretty rare record, but I got it for a good price because it's in such poor condition. And what I do is I use this bath. I use a mixture of bleach and washing up liquid. And basically, I'll put this down there so I can show you what I do with this. So I'll give it a good coating in the bath. Get it really coated in there. And then basically I just give it a good old scrub. And this obviously isn't good. This is your traditional sort of floor scouring scrub. And just really work it in there with the grooves, you know, and reveal that sonic excellence. And then just to finish off, you need a good rinse before you go into the next process. So I'll just move that there, and I've developed this technique after a good while, but can you still see me there? So basically you're using a good old power wash. I hope you can still see that. Can you see me? Is that alright? And look at that, you can see the grunge has come out of it. It's looking, put that down there. And I don't know whether you can see that, but that's looking a whole lot better, isn't it? And you know, particularly when you're dealing with rare records like this, you know, I think it's worth going to this this extra effort. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you might join me next time. Cheers. Ta-da.